There's 2,000 pages of this indictment. I guess you haven't read all 2,000 pages.
That's approximately 4,000 pages.
4,000.
The political parties, formed around a charismatic leader, unfortunately cannot sustain their success.
Welcome to the Cassandra Voices podcast, an Irish home for independent journalism with a global perspective. The prophetess Cassandra advised her fellow Trojans to reject the horse the Greeks had seemingly left behind as a gift, but was ignored. Our Cassandra Voices podcast offers cautionary tales and inspiring narratives to illuminate our own troubled times. We'll be putting out regular episodes reflecting the broad scope of our magazine's coverage over the last 6 years. Thanks to the Loafing Heroes and especially Bartholomew Ryan for the use of their track Ro Goira from the 2019 album Meander Tales.
This is Luke Sheehan for Cassandra Voices. Fatma Akman Lehmann was born and raised in Ankara. One of her earliest memories, she says, is of the assassination of Uğur Mumcu, one of Turkey's most influential investigative journalists. He was killed in 1993 when an explosive device was placed in his car right in front of his home in the capital. Because he had been receiving death threats, he would always check the street and then his car before allowing any family member to join him. His wife and 2 children were unhurt but would spend years actively seeking justice for the killing. Although the 1990s witnessed many similar political murders and Mumcu was neither the first nor the last journalist to be killed, this assassination was a defining moment for Fatma, who was 6 years old. For her, it was the moment politics entered my childhood playroom. Motivated by the idea of pursuing a career in journalism, she moved to Istanbul at 18 to study economics at Istanbul University. She began her career in media as an intern on the economics desk at Cumhuriyet, a newspaper that had published Uğur Mumcu's work for decades. It was there that she first realised how difficult and unpredictable journalism could be. It was the era when online publications were entering daily life, and the core values of journalism were losing ground to commercial clickbait and a fastest wins mentality. Print publications were suffering from sharply declining advertising revenues. The sector, in other words, was already in turmoil. After an internship in 2006-07, she worked for various national publications, both daily and monthly, for the next 7 to 8 years, including a period working for Dunya, an economics daily that would eventually go bankrupt. Meanwhile, the Gezi Park protests in 2013 formed another turning point. They reshaped her understanding of the media and of figures she had once considered trustworthy. During the first days of the protest, taking place in the heart of Turkey's largest city and the industrial capital, major news broadcasters remained silent. She would go to work in the morning, check developments in the park constantly, join the protests after work, and return home before sunrise to prepare for another workday. For 3 to 4 days, not a single major broadcaster showed even a second of what was happening, until the protests spread across the country and became impossible to ignore. Many believe that Gezi was a milestone in President Tayyip Erdogan's political career as well. His political apparatus and his own persona continued to expand their influence after, growing larger, more encompassing, more dominant in everyday life. Was a kind of catalyst. Politics now seeped into institutions, workplaces, private conversations, and even personal choices faster than ever. It gradually became impossible to stand outside of all of this. By 2015, Fatma was in Berlin to work for a period of 3 months with Handelsblatt. Being a Turkish journalist in Berlin then felt both liberating and disorienting. It was the height of the Syrian refugee crisis, and only hours after her arrival in Berlin, she received news of a suicide bombing attack by ISIS back in Turkey, targeting protesters. She spent hours trying to reach her family, who lived fairly close to the explosion site. She carried the weight of that volatility with her, and realised acutely that Turkey was going through something severe and markedly different. The political and economic agenda at home was shifting at a pace incomparable to Germany or any other Western country, it seemed to her. In many ways, this contrast and the resulting gaps in information and understanding sharpened her gaze for what she would start to write in earnest 10 years later. After returning from Berlin, and after the last 3 publications she had worked for had gone bankrupt, she transitioned into marketing and communications. Her experience in the information ecosystem helped her adapt. Now, with more than 15 years of moving through communications, politics and marketing, she's seen firsthand how narratives shape societies, at times distorting reality entirely. She's witnessed how the media landscape and media ownership have changed, becoming increasingly polarised while mainstream centrist media has gradually collapsed. After several years in a long-distance relationship, she returned to Berlin, completed a master's degree and has now been married for a year. She started writing her English language newsletter, Turkey Lost in Translation, on Substack in February 2025. It was originally intended to cover Turkish politics, culture and the economy together, more as a hobby and a form of personal civic engagement. Then, one of those explosions that periodically batter Turkish politics and civic life went off again. Just a few weeks after she launched her newsletter, a major police raid targeted the Istanbul metropolitan municipality. The mayor and presidential hopeful, Ekrem İmamoğlu, was detained. Everything escalated rapidly. Fatma found herself documenting a political upheaval in real time. İmamoğlu has remained in prison since March 19, 2025, and as of the end of the year was facing an indictment with a stupefying range of charges, including espionage, carrying a potential prison sentence of 2,300 years.
Fatma Akman Lehmann, welcome to Cassandra Voices.
Thank you so much.
So Fatma, you started a newsletter and a Substack called Turkey Lost in Translation around the start of 2025, year that's nearly over. So you've been 1 year creating this. Can you please explain what the title means, what you're trying to make visible, and why conversations about Turkey will often get misunderstood or oversimplified overseas?
Yeah, sure. Would love to do that. As you know, I live in Germany now and I'm married to a German. And after moving abroad, something really struck me, how little people just know about Turkey. And there's no real mainstream platform out there that brings together the centrist left and right voices from Turkey for an international audience. That was one of the first things that I realized, that people just do not have sufficient information sources. And over the past years, since Erdogan and the AKP took the power, media ownership, the media landscape in Turkey has shifted dramatically. And the mainstream media space has shrunk so much. And what reaches non-Turkish audiences today is incredibly limited, mostly either big pro-government outlets on one side or the very small, very partisan ones on the other. Mm-hmm. And I think neither of them just gives you a full picture. So I have, it was one of my major motivations that I've started to do it. On the other hand, foreign media reporting on Turkey has its own limitations, biases, shortcomings too. And unfortunately, many journalists cannot speak Turkish, don't learn it. And I believe this just makes it almost impossible to really grasp the culture, the religious context, or the dynamics, or the societal, or the politics, or the societal dynamics. And of course, we cannot ignore the changing nature of the news itself globally either. The media environment, how news is produced and consumed has also changed dramatically. And there's a certain pressure from the Turkish government as well. And most of the publications, good ones, are behind the paywalls, which is also making it a little bit, more difficult for people to just you know that well. So these were all in all my main motivations that I started to write a newsletter. And I just, in the beginning, thought that I can just a little cover about the culture more and a little bit more, a little bit about economy and the Turkish politics. But there has been this crackdown started against the main opposition in Turkey. In 2-3 weeks after I launched this newsletter. So I have just ended up covering the, those heated developments in Turkey, as much as I could do.
Yes. Like lots of big countries, Turkey is a place where, not that it moves slowly, but it can fade out of focus for the rest of the world, and it's going along at its own pace like a big elephant. And then suddenly there's a stampede, and there's been big activity. Once again, Erdogan has moved into action, and once again he's suppressing the the opposition in the form of, the younger generation protesters and all of that. But there's also at the center this figure, Ekrem İmamoğlu. So he's the mayor of Istanbul. He's been this rising opposition star. Can you explain what's happening in Turkey and, of course, who he is and what situation we're in now?
Ekrem İmamoğlu is actually, right now, the former imprisoned mayor of Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. And he has been imprisoned like since the last March 19. And the Istanbul Chief Public Prosecutor's Office completed a nearly 4,000 pages indictment against him. The key charges including like forming a criminal organization for personal gain, causing public financial loss, terrorism, data leaks, which has led into an espionage case later on, and many more. In the scope of these legal cases, more than 400 individuals were imprisoned in connection with him and with the cases. And in overall, the prosecution is requesting a total of 2,350 years in prison for İmamoğlu. And I have just already said that he has been behind the bars like for exactly 8 months, awaiting trial in detention under suspicion of attempting to flee abroad. And here, I would like to give a pause and elaborate a little bit what political espionage allegations mean for İmamoğlu and Turkey. İmamoğlu first was taken into custody on March 19 in connection with 2 separate investigations over allegations of corruption and terrorism. The terrorism charges were dropped due to the ongoing Kurdish Opening 2.0. The core accusation were that they formed an alliance with the Kurdish Dem Party and helped Kurdish bureaucrats secure seats in municipal council in the western cities. And it sounds really ridiculous since they are full citizens sharing the same rights with the Turkish society.
That was terrorism rather than espionage, right? Simply helping.
Yes, this is terrorism charges, but they have dropped that later on.
Right.
So, with the Kurdish Opening 2.0, the terrorism charges had lost all the credibility and they needed a new major case. And this time they accused the municipality of using the Istanbul Senin, which means Istanbul is yours. This is like a city app, a super app, to leak citizens' data, manipulate elections, and even people's personal information for espionage on behalf of third countries. Yeah.
Did he create the app? Was this the J or CHP? Was that his party's creation, to try and innovate Istanbul, or was it
no
the president who created the app in the first place?
Istanbul municipality created the app, the professional team, the IT team, have been working for the municipality before actually İmamoğlu. They have built up the app simply. I would like to state something. It's really striking. The countries named were the usual suspects. İmamoğlu allegedly leaked the citizens' information for espionage on behalf of US, Germany, and Israel. This was one of the major cases right now. And the other one is corruption, and there has been a lot of there as well.
I remember back to 2012. I think Erdogan thought that Facebook was a personal, attack on himself. Somebody in Silicon Valley made Facebook in order to annoy him. At least that was the way. That was the way he reacted. That was the way somebody else in Egypt reacted, around the same time. Anyway, but it's funny to have.
Indeed, he has never supported the social media, and he still believes that it's the devil. For the governments and the peace of the society. Right.
Right. And so there's 400 people in custody as well with Imamoglu. So this is another huge crackdown, really.
Yeah, absolutely. They
10
have
years
been
ago.
Gradually detained, as they just kept raiding, organizing raids on their the municipality, their houses. Imamoglu's family, his close teammates, his campaign advisors, his press advisors, etc. Also, again, his lawyers. There are a huge number of people are being allegedly accused of building up a crime ring, corruption ring, and trying to manipulate the elections and espionage behalf of the third countries, etc. And this the strangest part is that this prosecutors now claim that this app collected personal and electoral data and allegedly shared it with foreign companies to influence public opinion and shape the political preferences. And this narrative is tied back to the 2019 local elections, when Imamoglu first became a national figure by winning Istanbul against the AKP's candidate, which was also hilarious. I'm pretty sure you know, Imamoglu was running against Binali Yildirim from Erdogan's AKP, the last prime minister of Turkey, and the one who took the country to a referendum that abolished his own office and effectively gutted the power of the parliament. And these allegations only appeared 2 weeks before the indictment was finalized, etc. But there are ongoing cases, the potential closure of main opposition party. There's still the risk of a potential trustee assigning on top of the Istanbul municipality, etc. And I would like to also maybe talk a little bit about the smear campaigns run against Imamoglu, which was quite brutal, and I think it was quite also hurtful for those people in prison and for their families. As someone who works in marketing communications, that was all the narrative that have just pushed through the mainstream media and social media. Everything was genuinely heartbreaking and disgraceful. If you'll allow me, that I would like to share a few short examples.
Sure.
For instance, the indictment claims a public loss of 160 billion liras, which makes around 3.5 billion euros. And this claim has a story, a brutal smear campaign. During live police raids, you saw officers breaking into safes, digging around summer house gardens, searching for hidden cash for hours on TVs. We had through all these in the span of last 8 months, weeks after weeks. And simultaneously, pro-government media pushed an astronomical figure of 560 billion Turkish liras, allegedly corrupted, which never appeared in the indictment. And 560 billion, to make it a little easier for the audience, is roughly 10 billion euros, which is the entire annual budget of Istanbul municipality.
Yeah. We have to get back to some of these points because I have so many little questions that appear in my mind. But I mean, you foreground this. I mean, they are accusing him of manipulating the electorate, okay, as well as spying on everyone and selling secrets. But look at the amount of manipulation that they're engaged in. And this is a person who's been in power for so long. And despite the fact that he wants to kind of push Turkey back in time and, delete, probably the hopes of each generation, and he hates social media, he's sophisticated, right? I mean, like, they have these machines to manipulate narrative, to manipulate perception with these smears that you're talking about, all these theatrics and all this crazy stuff. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. And you are really, you're going into detail, and this is partly why you created the newsletter and Substack as well. It's to deal with these kinds of narratives.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's impossible to just, like, for foreign media, it's technically impossible to just cover all these details and everything. But, like, behind all these, like, in the backstage, the Turkish people is, like, really facing a very unjust treatments. I mean, like, for instance, the families of these people, they also, like, lost their access to their financial means, to their bank accounts, because they're all frozen now. And they have just accused of people, like, wrongdoing with the taxpayers' money. But in reality, like, all the sum they could have just found from all those raids and everything, trust me, it just cannot even afford a middle-class second-hand apartment in Istanbul.
Right.
So these are, like, honest, working-class, middle-class people which have pretty much nothing rather than their monthly salaries, and also their families. And they're, like, facing really unjust treatments right now. Like, they're... for instance, bureaucratic passports are being evoked. They're, like, dealing also with some side cases, and they're being faced of traveling abroad bans and that sort of stuff. So that's like quite a lot happening.
The families are being punished collectively as well, clearly. So you have 400 of the inner circle, and then actually their entire milieu, coterie, whoever is seen as their friend. Yeah.
Actually, it's affecting like thousands of people right now.
Right.
Directly or indirectly. Yeah. And it was also quite interesting that I would also like to bring that up. Like this sum, 3.5 billion euro. Later, disclosures showed that about 100 billion, which makes around 2 billion euro, of the alleged loss was actually well documented foreign loans for subway projects, for instance, and mostly from European banks, and they're still being repaid. So there are a lot of flaws and problems in this indictment. To be able to just announce all these, the main opposition party just started some web pages and social media accounts, etc., but they have all been prohibited to, like, banned to reach, to access from Turkey, unfortunately. Yeah.
Have you been able to read all 2,000 pages? Yeah. There's 2,000 pages of this indictment. I guess you haven't read all 2,000 pages.
That's approximately 4,000 pages.
4,000. I think this is part of the tactic. It must be part of the tactic as well as all the craziness. It gives people an impossible task of trying to read through it, which is a classic legal thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
And of course, it's worth remembering that in the background, Turkey has a volatile region. There has been just any number of conflicts inside its border, alongside its border, and so on. And he can, in these times, people are susceptible to stories of infiltration, spies, third column betrayal, whatever. And so he's obviously weaponized this insecurity and thrown this at his political opponent.
Indeed. And like you said, third page speculations and rumors, and it just it just popped up in my head that actually I can just share an example to that third page rumors and speculations.
What do you mean by third page? Do you mean when I said third column? It's just like a phrase in English which was like really trying to say, like a kind of traitorous other force. You think you know who's on your side and your enemy is there, but then the other one is like, really coming from your side to betray you. That's the third column. So anyway, I think we're on the same page, but I think, this is what you're also talking about. Yeah.
Let me share an example with you. I hope I don't offend anyone. I will just do my best to choose my words carefully. Every day you see the most outrageous rumors and attacks on people's personal lives circulating in the media, and not just on social media, but also in mainstream outlets. One of the most shocking examples some months ago happened during a CHP rally, like the main opposition rally, because those rallies are still ongoing. Ekrem İmamoğlu, like the mayor of Istanbul, the imprisoned mayor of Istanbul, Selim, and his mom, like İmamoğlu's wife, Dilek İmamoğlu, both of whom are currently facing legal cases, just like the entire family. His wife and his son, like a mother and a son, were briefly captured in a photograph sharing a moment of eye contact on the rally bus, while the party chair, Özgür Özel, was addressing the crowd.
Right.
And the troll armies of the government, which are largely fed by the Turkish middle class taxpayers,
money,
who are known never supporting Erdogan. These troll armies took that image out of the context and launched a disgusting campaign suggesting a forbidden relationship between the mother and the son. And this sort of similar disgraceful stories have been pushed by the troll armies, between the CHP chair Özel and İmamoğlu's wife, Dilek İmamoğlu, again, etc. So there's no single day you spend without feeling that, that deep embarrassment as an ordinary citizen.
It's funny as well. It's to engage in that is fairly obscene. And then, of course, in the background, Erdogan's party. Is it the AKP? Can I say that in English?
The AKP, true. Justice and Development, but AKP, yes. Of course, they're selling an idea of moral superiority and rectitude and Islamic values and conservatism, and they're using the dirtiest tricks to try and smear a guy who probably in some ways, although we don't know for sure about how strict his belief may be or how practicing he is. As a Muslim, he appeared in a photograph with his mother. She was wearing the headscarf and so on. So anyway, he looks something like a sort of, Muslim conservative centrist. He looks a bit more like something like Erdogan is supposed to have been. And there's incredible historical circularities here, including the fact that Erdogan himself was once the mayor and who was put in jail and then bounced back, took power, all of that incredible stuff. So I take your point, and I think it also refers, it makes me reflect a little bit on both your career and others that, we collaborated with. We have a story in the magazine. It was like a short article with a young female journalist called Deniz Gungor. She, and others like her, many women, professionals, journalists, educated people have had to live under this Erdogan umbrella all their lives. And it's just kind of permanently there in the background, but people may not be aware. They might think of Turkey as always have been a very repressive place with little freedom of speech. But of course, it had a really busy journalistic as well as intellectual, creative sphere, still does, but it's in a battle with this administration constantly pushing, negotiating to and trying to kind of take a little here, sometimes make a concession there. And it's just been terrible to see how, this keeps falling away, really. So the journalists get bullied. They don't necessarily get
ripped to pieces, like maybe someone from Saudi Arabia, but they're harassed until they leave the country, or they're maybe discouraged from doing their job as well as, and we know they can do their jobs really well, because you can, if you know a little about Turkey, you can just see how busy it's been and how much intellectual life is there.
Definitely.
So
definitely, yeah. I mean, thankfully we have a lot of very courageous people, and they do not give up. They do not give up on easily. Yeah.
Who are Erdogan and İmamoğlu? Recep Tayyip Erdogan and İmamoğlu. I noticed that Recep Tayyip Erdogan sounds like RTE, which is our national broadcaster. So I wanted to say that RTE was an oppressor.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, that's a coincidence. But Recep Tayyip Erdogan, not Erdogan, as people think, and Ekrem İmamoğlu. You've been investigating them. So tell us a bit about the parallels between their political trajectories, and please highlight key differences, describe their rise to power, and anything else.
Yeah, sure. First of all, you pronounce their name well. It's quite difficult, I know. There are definitely parallels between the two leaders. Maybe one of the most interesting ones, they both come from the Eastern Black Sea region in the north, but rival cities, Trabzon and Rize. And again, quite interestingly, the Eastern Black Sea region has a disproportionate influence in Turkish politics, and it has pretty much always been like this.
Huh.
And in the early stages of his career, Erdogan was also imprisoned.
Yes.
But it was only 4 months, and afterwards he just turned into almost a rock star. Because yeah, but I mean, that what has happened, because Turkey still back then was still a democracy, even though it has some flaws. And İmamoğlu, in this case, he has already been imprisoned for full 8 months, waiting for the indictment to be released only.
Yes.
Both have had semi-professional football careers, from school and district city clubs. Yeah,
İmamoğlu played football as well.
Yeah, both.
Oh my God! Don't tell me he played in goal, because Erdogan was goalkeeper, right?
I think Erdogan. I'm not really sure about that, but
maybe he wasn't.
As I know, İmamoğlu is a goalkeeper. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, as a goalkeeper, I'm sure about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I've read about that.
The parallels are amazing already. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Both also being considered as charismatic leaders by the professionals and the masses. But I would like to highlight this. İmamoğlu is a drastically different person and a leader from Erdogan. Erdogan has been long known as charismatic leader by the political analysts and proven by the poll results in a similar way as well. But in 2019 local elections, when first İmamoğlu ran and won the mayoral elections, the city elections, İmamoğlu has also drawn people's attention with his charisma and everything, but in a different way. First of all, he's a much more approachable person. Erdogan has never been, as far as I can remember. Even during his so-called golden era as the shining star of the Muslim Democrats, there were already scandals of ordinary people trying to talk to him just to complain or just share their thoughts. They have never been well received. I mean, he always has that authoritarian, stern, tense, rigid presence.
Right.
So he's simply not someone an average citizen can look in the eye, have a real human conversation with.
Yeah.
On the contrary, İmamoğlu is pretty warm. He's a real people's person. Has great conversation skills. And he can immediately start having chit-chat with people here and there, regardless of their age, I don't know, gender, education, whatever you can think of. And people call him the small talk master.
Okay.
I personally love this specifically created term for him. And like, yeah, Erdogan has always been praised as a strong speaker, speech giver, which is a quite similar strength for Imamoglu as well. I think it's like a core skill for successful politicians. But in that sense, Erdogan is very much of a product of the family he was born into, the era he grew up in, and the more vertical top-down hierarchy of Turkish society compared to the West. Like,
Yes.
but that generation is basically retired now.
Yes.
And honestly, that's the supporter base he still relies on. But his popularity among young generations is extremely low, which is important to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yes.
What we are seeing today is also a generational conflict, I would say. Imamoglu is young. He's 54 now. And Erdogan is 71.
Yes.
And yeah, this is like an era. It needs to be actually somehow finished.
What you are listening to has taken time and resources to prepare. It is a collaboration of committed journalists. Please, if you can, share, subscribe, or support this podcast in whatever way you can.
It feels like Erdogan almost doesn't even try to get the attention of the younger generations. Like he wants to pretend that they're not there, or maybe that's not true. Maybe his son. This is another dynamic, of course, to this Shakespearean sort of story. But Erdogan's son is being shaped to sort of take his place. Maybe that's how that is supposed to be done. But Erdogan himself, I know this much. I know when I tried to pay attention to him and his rhetoric and his story, he doesn't seem to care what younger people are hoping to do or where they want to go with Turkey.
Like, honestly, I'm not really sure if he doesn't care or if he simply cannot comprehend what they expect.
Okay.
Because he has been in power for so long, and like that power toxication, maybe if I'm not making a mistake to describe the situation, but that he just like developed that maybe overconfidence that he knows everything about people, and he just makes the best decisions also.
Yes.
For the people, despite the people sort of attitude, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, like, unfortunately, like for instance, when Erdogan was elected as mayor of Istanbul in 1994,
yes,
he was young. He was just 40, and yet, like, over the years, he made it nearly impossible for younger generations to move into leadership roles.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I mean, whether in politics, business, local governments, I mean, name it. Like, he closed the door behind him, and he planted the seed for it and pretty much turned into a whole culture, some sort of a norm. And I think part of it was his motivation to make his own power sustainable. But inevitably, there's like a generational conflict right now. Like, the younger generations became more active in society and increasingly visible in business. The demand for change became unavoidable as well. I mean, and the politics, what we are going through is just a reflection of it. The problem is that, like, Erdogan is not willing to give up on the power right now. But
yes.
But actually, he also needed to like overcome all those barriers in the beginning of his political career.
You also, like, you and I exchanged words another day. You heartily agreed. I said it's like he keeps economically decapitating this kind of middle class that may emerge. In Turkey has certainly not been, it's one of the strongest natural economies and hasn't done too badly at all underneath him. But when it does well, educated people rise, they become, more successful. And then his management of the economy, which has seemed so perverse sometimes from outside, especially I think on the currency rates and the value of the lira itself,
Absolutely.
has gone through these strange cycles. And of course, maybe the strange strategy behind it is to keep decapitating and disempowering this rising middle class over several generations. And then they may get exhausted, some of the best of them, and leave, or they simply maybe some give up and absorb themselves into his circle.
Definitely. There's also an ongoing wealth transfer from like the middle class to the upper class. Actually,
right,
trying to create his own oligarch, his own elite, like
right,
an upper class loyal supporter base for himself, and also like the lowest, like the lower middle and the lowest class, that they have become quite dependent to social welfare and etc. And they are also like very loyal supporters.
Yes.
And he is pretty aware of it. I mean, that's most probably one of the reasons he's so brutal towards the middle class people, that he knows that he cannot take their votes and support.
You had also told me that people on the outside make this mistake somewhat lazily by thinking that Turkey is, it's just like Russia. It's, the same as Russia. They've been in power for a similar length of time. Both of them used the trick of becoming prime minister, then president, and, twisting the constitution to stay in power. But they're not the same. Actually, I mean, one example being the relatively more free press that's been there in Turkey, relatively more agile opposition in lots of ways, and the relatively more terrifying suppressions that happen to people in Russia when they even say a single thing. They're blasted away for years. But is there anything in Turkey like the fascinating thing with Putin is he has a fake opposition. Putin does this theatrical fake opposition where they set up people to oppose him, put them on TV, and then whatever, they just disappear, or who knows, they fall out a window or anything. I mean,
I know what you mean exactly.
Does Turkey have any fake opposition like that?
No, thankfully not.
No.
At least not yet. I mean, like if you just like look up all the polls, actually, like since 2002, Erdogan took over the administration in Turkey, became prime minister.
Yes.
Since then, he came to the power with like less than 30% of the votes. And then since up until 2010, it just gradually increased.
Right.
But there has always been a 50% of the society never voted for Erdogan, never supported, and they have perceived him as a potential threat for Turkish democracy and the republic.
Right.
And we have also witnessed two really big major political rallies, anti-Erdogan, anti-government demonstrations.
Yes.
The first one was in 2013. The Generation Y, the millennials, led it. And the last one was after Imamoglu's unjust, unfair detention,
right,
sparked on the March 19. And the second one was even much larger, much more widespread around the country. I mean, the smallest cities, the inland Anatolian cities, hardcore Erdogan supporter cities.
Yes.
They went on a street to protest.
Oh, okay.
So the Turkish, I have a faith in Turkish people. I mean, in particular, with the generational change, I strongly believe that the demographics in Turkey, the sociology changed. and a lot. And like the education level is like much higher right now. Like the Turkish people believes in the core principles of the founding principles of the republic and democracy, and I think no regime can be sustained like despite its own people.
As a last little aside, it's very interesting to me, these issues of fathers and sons, because they tie in so well with this kind of shift in values, and maybe also, you know, the Islamic background and the way the role of women has changed and the voices of women. I mean, Imamoglu's father himself, was he the co-founder of a party or the leader of a party?
He was a co-founder of a central right ANAP, Anavatan Partisi, which means like a homeland, motherland party.
Motherland.
Yeah.
And was did you say that was in Trabzon?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a different region.
Yeah, it was definitely. The family just comes from Trabzon, that northern Black Sea region city. Yeah.
Okay. Was that party had success at some point, like the 90s or 80s?
Yeah, in 90s, they have been the coalition partners of the ruling coalitions. Yes, they were relatively successful, I would say, but like 90s were also like quite difficult in terms of economy. There were like major global crises, like the Asia crisis.
Yes.
Yeah, like, you know, those. So it wasn't really, let's say, possible to just maintain a coalition longer than a few years. So they have been in power, sharing the power with some other central right and left parties as well. But in the end, they have just disappeared after the leader. I think there is this major problem in Turkish politics still, that the parties are just building up their entire strategy around a charismatic leader, and once they fall from the power, that just the system just
yeah. Okay, it makes a lot of sense.
Maybe the only exception is like the main opposition party, like the CHP, People's like the Republic's People Party,
founded by Ataturk.
Ataturk, yes, and it has been like 100 years old.
And now
the oldest, social democrat parties also in the Europe.
Incredible. And now is it led by Imamoglu, or he's their candidate for president, or maybe he has to be the leader if he's the candidate?
He's a member of the main opposition, yes, but he's led by the chair Özgür Özel, but he's also a quite fierce, convincing leader.
He's not been put into jail as well, has he?
I mean, he's a PM. Sorry, he's an MP. Yes, MP, and there are dozens of cases, legal cases against him as well. But he has this protection since he's in the parliament right now. But the moment he loses the title of MP, which may also revoke it. There are some revoke it. There are some ongoing. Yes, unfortunately. That's also one of the, let's say, worst case scenarios. Might happen. Hopefully won't happen.
Can you tell me quickly one thing in Turkish, because we haven't spoken enough Turkish in this interview. What's the Turkish phrase that we translate as deep state?
Derin devlet.
Say it again.
Derin devlet, like a
derin devlet, deep state.
Derin devlet, yes. Deep means derin, and state means devlet in Turkish, yes. And
now, very ignorantly, as an ignorant outsider, when I first learned about this, I was very intrigued. It goes back, so it seems, in the origin to the founding of the state. Ataturk creates something secular out of the empire. And the theory of the derin devlet, if I'm right, is that basically a kind of Ataturkist core or an unelected group is sort of in the background all of the time, and that they ultimately are trying to manipulate democratic leaders like our great hero, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Is that the kind of way that people use it, or am I wrong about that?
Well, I mean, yes, it has been used in that way for quite a long while, I would say, during the 2010s in particular.
Yeah.
But like, that means basically an establishment within the state.
Established.
Has,
Oh, so they,
like,
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, more power than the civil, air putting it, like the civil politicians.
Yes.
But like now, I think there is no such thing, even if there was at some point.
Yes, indeed.
Suspicious.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
Right.
it's not left. If there is something, that's Erdogan himself.
Right. I mean,
You cannot think of a state like rather than Erdogan anymore.
No, exactly. Yes. Yeah. You can't keep bringing this thing back to life and then stabbing it in the heart and then saying, I've defeated it and it's the great threat. And then you have been there 25 years wrestling it and then, make everyone afraid of the same thing.
Definitely.
So the last question is, just give me your sense more existentially. What do you think Erdogan is trying to achieve right at this minute? What's the strategy and what do you think will happen next?
Very difficult question. It's honestly impossible to know what Erdogan himself has in his mind. So all I can do is draw from what political analysts, commentators, and academia are saying. The most reading right now is this: Turkey is being prepared for a post-Erdogan era, which you have also like mentioned earlier.
Yes.
I think most people in Turkey, like across very different political backgrounds, including many pro-government voices as well, would agree that Erdogan has attempted a kind of regime transformation, a regime change, to be more precisely.
Yes.
We still don't know how fully he succeeded, but the attempt is widely acknowledged. And most people in opposition would also agree that he has significantly weakened the state institutions, the separation of power, the independence of judiciary,
Yes.
like a functioning parliament,
Yes.
goes on. So he has accumulated an extraordinary level of personal power.
Yes.
I mean, some people even compare him to the Ottoman sultans. And frankly, they say even some of the sultans didn't build this much centralized authority. So like what I'm getting at it is he's likely trying to designate someone to take over after him, someone to inherit, like air quoting, his reign, and opinions differ on who that might be. Sometimes it's also wishful thinking, though. But the most commonly discussed scenario right now is that Erdogan is preparing his son, Bilal Erdogan, for the role.
Yeah.
Yes. Like on the other hand, the most unlikely theory, the least popular one, is that Erdogan family will be way back and he will retire under certain circumstances provided. Like no legal case against him or anyone from the family and some other names close to him, etc. But as I said, like all these developments, the efforts to throttle whatever is left of democracy in the country has become increasingly costly. And I don't think this is like a realistic...
it makes it impossible to retire in a respectable way like that. Once you have increased the stakes of the game, imprisoned everybody, made everyone terrified, and strangled any opposition, it means that retirement, of course, is the first moment when you're in real danger. You relax your full on control, and then someone goes for you. So this is what happens in China. In China as well, they supposedly have this problem. The leaders get into power. They spend years and years getting there. Xi Jinping is 20, 30 years. He took care of his opposition so hard and so thoroughly that, it's kind of understood that if he in fact does lose power, then there can even be retributions, and
Definitely.
the dynamic of autocracy like that. So I take it you don't have huge confidence in Bilal. Can you describe what he's like a little?
I'm actually right now writing my newsletter.
Okay.
Around, again, Bilal Erdoğan, because there are he has appeared in the politics scene very recently, very often, which is something kind of new. And a lot of people also believe that, also from AKP section,
yeah,
the ruling party's members, that they got convinced that Erdoğan is preparing his son for as his successor.
And then, of course, if the son takes over while he's still alive, he could sort of obviously steer things from the background.
Definitely, and I mean, he doesn't hold any role in the politics or in the government right now. He's just running some NGOs that I have just covered about it before. Most probably the first step will be assigning him a serious governmental role. But I mean, the people also do not this, as we have just discussed earlier. The political parties formed around a charismatic leader unfortunately cannot sustain their success.
And I hear that the son Bilal has also been occupying headlines even more so recently. Can you comment on that?
Sure thing. I mean, up until now, he never held the office, never ran for any type of elections before. Yet, yes, recently stands at the center of all the rumors and speculations, and he started appearing in the political scene much more often as well.
Right.
I mean, there are several reasons for that, but it's now widely being discussed if he's being prepared to become the heir of his father, Erdoğan. And besides all these, he has always been a well-known figure. I mean, for sure. And he recently has been on the news headlines in the opposition media for other reasons as well. One of them is he is sitting on top of one of the most influential power networks in Turkey today. And I'm pretty sure you have heard of that. The Islamic movement, the Islamist movement in Turkey had this vision, or I mean, I feel more of a fantasy, raising a golden generation, a pious Muslim, well-educated people to take over the legacy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I mean, we had also pretty nasty and bad stories with that. We have bad memories with that. Gülen network, Gülen cult network tried it before, and then they have attempted to a military coup before, approximately 10 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it seems afterwards, someone from the family, much more trustworthy, which is Bilal Erdoğan, took over that vision. And these NGOs are literally involving with the municipalities. They are really well funded somehow, and ministries, etc. But I would like to state something really important, because before CHP took over Istanbul municipality in 2019, the foundations and associations operating under Bilal Erdoğan's patronage were supported with hundreds of millions of euros.
Yeah.
And free public properties from the city sources, Istanbul sources.
Right.
Once that tap was turned off, the same network shifted its funding toward unfortunately, EU programs. And according to a reporting by Bir Gün, a daily newspaper in Turkey, only 3 of those, there are more than 10 NGOs, received nearly 1.2 million euros in EU funds between 2021 and 2025 this year through Turkey's national agency. I mean, all of this funding is reviewed and approved by the European Union, and I think EU also needs to come up with a solution to this, one that addresses the problem without depriving ordinary students in Turkey, the students with no ties to any sect, religious group, shady NGO networks. I mean, they should maintain receiving support from those valuable programs like Erasmus Plus, etc. But this is a big problem to be resolved for the Turkish opposition and for Turkish democracy.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you feel, is Bilal actually in charge of all of this, or is he really a figurehead for these kind of...
he is indeed, because he has up until now... Yeah, he was. He up until now, he has never described himself as a politician. He always defined himself as a businessman and a civil actor. And I mean, we know that he's like sitting on top of all these NGO networks because he's always there in their annual celebrations, etc. Like, like representing those networks also in the public scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't call themselves the golden generation, but you make this comparison. Is that correct?
They do actually.
They do. Okay, sort of informal name.
Some sort of informal name. Yeah, I mean, it's like changing sometimes a little bit, rebranding, etc. But like the vision and the goal is remaining the same. Okay.
And do you have any final statement you'd like to make about all of this? Any kind of mild prediction for the future, the next steps of what you feel will happen?
I mean, to be honest, this is like a pretty tough situation, what we are going through right now.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, the most common reading right now is this, like, Turkey is being prepared for a post-Erdogan era.
Yes.
And it is, for opposition, very important to just like maneuver to the democracy and like a state being managed by the law and with people who have equipped for this.
Right.
And I mean, I think most people in Turkey, like across very different political backgrounds, including many pro-government voices as well, would agree that like Erdogan has attempted to a kind of regime transformation. So this is like, there are like 2 ways in front of us right now. Like, we still don't know how fully he succeeded. I mean, I have a great faith for the Turkish society. Yeah. But I don't really believe that like the near future, maybe up to 5-10 years, won't be so easy in particular for the Turkish Democrats.
No. Okay, I think we'll leave it there for now. And I hope you can both contribute to our site somehow and also come back to talk to us again, if that works for you.
Sure thing. And I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much, Luke.
No worries. Fatma Akman Lehmann, thank you so much. And goodbye.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Cassandra Voices is a multimedia project that seeks to highlight independent voices and inspire original thinking with stories from Ireland and around the world. Go to CassandraVoices.com online to read more and look out for more episodes from us in future. Your attention and your support are crucial. Thank you.